All right, good morning, everyone. Today's Friday, January 29th, 2021, and we have a handful of things to talk about today. Interesting, though, I sifted through the news of like all over the world. I sifted through the news locally, in Europe, Asia, Africa. I mean, there are things to talk about, don't get me wrong, but everyone from the New York Times all the way to Al Jazeera, everybody seems to be talking about the GameStop thing, but there's way more to cover than just that, so let's get into it. Now, first off, I'm going to just start with GameStop just so we get it over with. I did talk about it quite a bit yesterday, but there have been some more developments. So, even more platforms like Discord and Facebook have removed groups that have to do with the Wall Street bets and having to do with the whole GameStop thing. Now, here's the interesting thing about this as well, though. Robinhood, which is a trading platform that is very, very popular. The whole thing with Robinhood is that they're trying to democratize trading, right, for the little guy. That's what's interesting. But here's the other thing about this as well. They're getting slapped with a lawsuit because they did it exactly the opposite of what their whole logo and what their motto is. Now, yes, don't get me wrong. A company is more than just its motto and all that stuff, right? There's the legal side of it. But they froze trading for being able to purchase any GameStop, I believe it was AMC, Nokia stocks. There were a handful of stocks that were part of that whole GameStop wave, so to speak. So you can't purchase any of those stocks, but you can sell them. Really. Now, here's what's also interesting. It has come out that GameStop has been selling its users' data to these same hedge funds. The same hedge funds that are complaining that, the game got rigged against them for once. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's just ridiculous. I mean, and Robinhood also had to raise $1 billion in cash from their investors very quickly because, again, you see what happens when the people come together and they unite. Right. And so, long story short, AOC said that there should be congressional hearings and things like this because Robinhood should not have shut down the ability to purchase and yet still sell the GameStop stock along with others. Ted Cruz replied on Twitter saying he fully agrees. AOC then replied back saying pretty much, I'm willing to work with Democrat or Republican except for Ted Cruz. And I think she said also Josh Hawley because she goes, they almost got me murdered 3 weeks ago. So she goes, any Republican except for Hawley and Cruz, she goes, I'm willing to work with. Now, again, I wasn't there. Neither were, I mean, maybe some of you guys watching or listening were there, but at the Capitol riot. But again, it goes both ways. And I'm not trying to say that because I'm trying to sit on the fence here. But no, there's two perspectives to it. The question then becomes, how legitimate does each one serve when it comes to, bringing all this to fruition, right? The next thing is that Wall Street lost $70 billion in the last few days. I don't know if that has to do with, I'm sure the GameStop thing had to do with that, but I mean, it could be other things as well. I think from my understanding, anywhere between $5 to $10 billion was lost between a handful of hedge funds, just from that GameStop short screw up alone on the hedge funds part. But I don't know about where the rest would be coming from. The next thing is that Biden is going to offer COVID vaccines to Guantanamo Bay detainees. Now, there's some overreaction and there's some legitimate things being raised here. So, yes, Guantanamo Bay is for the worst of the worst. So the whole thing is like, why should they get it? The next thing is, well, the opposite side of that as well, even though they're very limited to what they can do, obviously they're in freaking one of the toughest prisons in the world, allegedly, they still have human rights, right? So that's the other side of the argument. It's hard to say. It's really, really difficult to say because ultimately when we look at this, I don't know. I honestly, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have the answer. I don't know if people like that should get the vaccine or not. Again, some of those people literally don't have a conscience. Some of them are mass murderers. And they'll do it again if they get out. So why they should get a vaccine that prevents them from dying from a natural, seemingly natural biological virus? I mean, it depends on the morality of the people running it, which is the government, right? So again, Biden's trying to show this whole thing of unison. So that seems to be the case here, no matter how bad you are. And I'm not trying to say that sarcastically, and I'm not trying to imply something. I'm just saying it literally seems like no matter how bad a person you are, Biden's like, no, don't worry, you'll get the vaccine too. Look, it's kind of like the same thing with Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel offering the vaccine to certain Palestinians in Israel. It's the same idea, right? So it's hard to say. The next thing is that Kevin McCarthy met with Trump to discuss Trump campaigning for Republicans in 2022 for the Senate races. And a lot of Republicans, politicians, were very upset about that, saying, we finally got rid of Trump, metaphorically. Why are you bringing him back into the circle? And the whole thing is, listen, whether you like it or not, Trump's got give or take. And I know after the Capitol riot, more people supported him, but a lot of people left him as well. He's got give or take 70 million people that strongly follow him. Let's just round that down. Let's just say it's 50 million. All right? That's 50 million people. That's the size of a goddamn country. I think that's more people than the population of Canada where I live. You know what I mean? And so they understand. Kevin McCarthy sees that and he says in his mind, part of my English, fuck me. Like, I need these votes. Like, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, that's the other thing too. And on top of that, Representative Matt Gaetz as well went to go to Wyoming and held a rally there where he talked about how they want to get rid of Liz Cheney and remove her from her office and all that because, she was for impeaching Trump for the second time. Here's the thing. The GOP is all over the place right now. And so allegedly Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy held a virtual phone call or meeting or whatever with top Republicans and others that wanted to chime in and join in on the call and said, stop with the infighting. Because the only thing that's going to damage us in 2022 is us. And he's right. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. When you fight from the inside, that's when the real problems start. Because you got guys like, for example, Matt Gaetz, and I'm not judging one way or the other, but this move seems to be clearly motivated by self-interest in his own agenda and career, which is fair, fine. But at the same time, you got to then question, okay, how much of the party should I represent? But a guy like Matt Gaetz probably doesn't care at this point because since he's a representative from Florida, all he needs is those people in the District of Florida to vote him in again, and then he can keep doing whatever the hell he wants, right? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, and I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that ultimately, when we look at that, we have to say, okay, what are both sides to this? What are the strategic moves he's trying to make, and what are the perspectives here, right? The next thing is that Texas University is encouraging their students to wear masks, more than one mask, like 2, 3, 4 masks, while masturbating or having sex. Look, I mean, again, from the beginning, the whole thing was, if you're going to have sex, you wear the mask. And this, I mean, it's not really an awkward thing to talk about. It's an awkward thing to suggest. Like, you're telling me in my private time, in my private life, what I can do. I mean, if I catch the virus, if I catch it, let's just say COVID from, having sex with somebody, that's my own doing. So I don't know why these health advisors are saying, oh, when you go to sleep with somebody, like, are you kidding me? Like, how are you going to do, like, it just doesn't make, like, just leave it alone, you know what I mean? And I get it, they're a university, a lot of sex goes on, a lot of hormones are raging in university, I get that, but at the end of the day, too, it's like, look, like, fuck, like, they're not going to listen. The kids and the students, they're probably not going to listen. Can you imagine having sex with someone with not just one mask this time around, but 2, 3 masks on, 3 layers of it? And in some cases, extreme, but some cases that I've heard, 4 layers of masks. Can you like, come on, seriously? I don't care if if you're gay, lesbian, straight, whatever, transgender, anytime you're doing some type of sexual interaction, you got a mask on. What the hell, So anyways, that's just that's interesting. So the next thing is, let's see here. Okay, breaking news from CNN just came out right now. Johnson & Johnson's single-shot COVID-19 vaccine shows 66% efficacy in global trial, but 85% efficacy against severe disease. Okay, so I guess maybe I'm just reading this right now. I guess maybe it helps other diseases too. I don't know. But the whole thing here is that Johnson & Johnson has taken more time to develop the vaccine, but they don't want to do a 2-shot thing. You know how now you got to wait, you got to take your 1 shot, then you got to wait 3 weeks for the second one, and then you got to wait 2 weeks after that to know that you've been fully vaccinated at the 94% level or whatever it is, right? Apparently, Johnson & Johnson wants to do it in a single shot, which, look, again, I'm not taking sides here, but if you want to get the shot, and I want to cater to those people as well as the people that don't want to, because I'm probably not going to get it, but for those that want to get the shot, I mean, it's even better for you because you just got to go in once and that's it. It's 1 shot, right? But at the same time, again, it's a little bit more mysterious as well because it's like, mRNA and all these different things, and I don't want to get into the whole thing because I don't want to get banned by YouTube. So anyways, the next thing is that Facebook, no, I already said that, sorry. Shell Oil Company has to pay Nigerian farmers over oil spills that they caused. Good. Like, fuck, hold them accountable. Sorry for my English today, but just hold them accountable. Simple as that. Just one at a time. Let's line up these corporations, hold them accountable. Yes, we need corporations. I'm all for an open capitalistic market. I am. And I know sometimes I might say things that are contrarian or contrary to that, but there needs to be a balance in a lot of cases, right? And that's what I'm trying to do here with the morning show. Not just report the news, but broadcast it in a very balanced way, or at least as balanced as I would hope to be, unless I'm giving my opinion, which I tell you guys, right? The next thing is that China will no longer recognize UK passports for Hong Kong people. Now, there's been a bit of a bickering and a back and forth between the UK and China. I don't know specifically what it is. Obviously, COVID is one of the main reasons for this. But again, you know, with the UK going through Brexit and all that, there's a lot of different things going on here. So it's hard to say. It really is. And I say that because when we look at all of this, it's not, I mean, China and the UK are not exactly arch enemies, so to speak. They kind of, from my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, they tend to generally stay out of the limelight when, you know, corresponding with one another, whether it's publicly via the media or through diplomatic cables or what have you. It's kind of interesting to see the way that it works. I've thought about that in recent weeks as well. You know, the countries that are not really known to interact with each other much, which kind of makes you think, if they don't interact with each other that much publicly, could that mean that they're interacting even more than we think privately? Right? And so this may be the result of private conversations that have elevated with China and the UK that were bound to go public eventually, right? The next thing is that Russia's population has shrunk for the first time in 15 years. Now, here's what I do know, because I just recently watched the Putin interviews with Oliver Stone on Showtime, which is a great documentary if you want to check it out. Oliver Stone, he plays both sides of the coin, fantastic. And he plays them both against the middle and then gets Putin's perspective. He's not pro-US, he's not pro-Russia. He tries to really play it down the middle. And Putin emphasizes the need for increased population in Russia and how they encourage traditional marriages, you know, man and woman, because gay or lesbian marriages don't produce any children, right? And he wants Russia's population of pure ethnic Russians to grow more and more. It's been a very strong proponent of a lot of his campaigns and his eternal agenda as well. And look, at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you're the president of any country, you want to see more of your people do well. And okay, you might say, Dave, that's a bit of a racist statement because you just said your people. No, you want your culture to stay alive. It's as simple as that. You want your culture to thrive as the years go on. It's as simple as that. It's not racist, no. Just like, you know, you have certain white culture, subcultures, black culture, Asian culture, Chinese culture, Indian culture. Same thing. African culture, Jamaican, you know, all like that. You want your culture to continue on. It's as simple as that. The next thing is that courts in Poland, this is interesting, have ruled that abortion is very strongly illegal unless a woman was raped or had incest-based relations. Now, there's tons of protests going on in Poland, especially by the younger generation, saying that they don't agree with this. They want, like, you know, they're pro-choice, which tends to be obviously the perspective of a lot of young liberal-leaning individuals, which is fine, both men and women. At the end of the day, the way I see it is this. If the people of a country have spoken out against a law they don't like and they've voiced their opinions strongly enough that you think most of the country is sitting back and saying, listen, change this law, you should probably change it back, right? And I'm not trying to take a stance on abortion here. I'm just saying that ultimately, when you look at this, it's like, okay, if the courts ruled one thing, but the people in the streets totally disagree, you might want to consider changing it back. Now, the question then becomes, we got to look at the numbers of people protesting, and we have to see how often this is occurring and how long it's going to occur for, because if it's a protest of 5,000, 10,000 people for a couple of days, then it all stops. Nothing's going to change. But if it's 50, 60, 70, 100,000 people or more protesting all across Poland, you might, as the leaders and you know, lawmakers and as officials of the country, you might want to sit back and say, you know what, we should change this, or at the very least lighten up this law, right? And so again, I'm not trying to take a stance on a pro-abortion or pro-life or what have you, or sorry, pro-choice or pro-life, but look, there's a lot of people that think that ultimately, even if they haven't been raped or they haven't had a baby accidentally through incest or something like this, or other forms of accidental birth and pregnancy, they still want to be able to abort the child if they feel it's not right. It's not their time to raise one, right? And some of them don't even want to give birth to the child and put it up for adoption because they feel, morally and emotionally attached once they give birth to it. So I can see that side. I really can. And I know there's a lot of women that watch and listen to this show, so I can understand that. Then there's also the very more religious leaning side of it and belief of it, which I also see. So it's very, very difficult to say, which is why I ultimately conclude to this. Whatever the people of the country want in each individual country, that's what it is. Sort of like in the US, each state has their own rules and laws. That's one of the things I really like about the states. If you don't like one state, you can always go live in another one that has something that caters to you. And that's what I like. The next thing is that Elon Musk is pissed off at the FAA for delaying more rocket launches and said that humanity will never get to Mars at this pace. Yeah, he's right. I mean, yeah, there's regulations and things, but my God, you got to be able to let things roam freely in the sense of these regulations and all that. I mean, think about, for example, like, let's just assume for a second aliens are real and they come with their UFOs. You think they got back on their planet some type of regulation committee that has to approve every time a UFO takes off? Like, okay, fine. In theory, the technology is way more advanced than ours. Fine. But you know what I'm saying? You think every time a UFO gets off the ground, they got a regulatory committee? I mean, okay, ultimately you could argue, Dave, honestly, who knows? And I would argue back, yeah, you're 100% right. But I mean, it's hard to say again. So, but I agree with Elon Musk in this case. And yeah, so the final thing is that Biden's $1.9 trillion AIDS package is being moved forward because they can do so many things without Republicans needing to approve it or stamp it in the Senate. Or in the House as well. The only thing the Republicans got right now is the Republicans are still head of multiple committees. They don't have the House, they don't have the Senate, they don't have nothing. So strategically, Mitch McConnell knows what he's doing by caving into Chuck Schumer like he did a few days ago and stuff like that. But a lot of people are saying, why isn't Biden and Kamala, why aren't they taking more steps in order to get money to regular working people? Because at the end of the day, you now control every branch of government, and I know they're trying to push this message of unity, but the argument is at what cost? That's the progressive argument, right? But it's interesting to see the combination of conservative populists and democratic and liberal-leaning progressives come together and share a lot of views on a lot of things. So there seems to be a new movement coming out that's been especially surging, particularly with the Tea Party in the last 10 years, and we will see what happens. So that's it for the news today, guys. Thank you so very much for watching or listening, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, and we'll catch you guys later this afternoon for today's episode, or if not, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Cheers.